February 2025. Kansas City was wrapped in a heavy gray sky. And inside the house that had once felt like laughter and warmth, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce hadn't spoken a single word in 48 hours. No arguments, no yelling, just silence thick, fragile, unbearable. Taylor's suitcase waited by the door like a quiet threat. Travis's phone buzzed again and again, but he couldn't lift his hand to answer. Donna Kelce had called Jason in tears, her voice cracking through the line. "What did your brother do? I've never heard him like this." And yet, no one, not even Donna, knew that what was coming next would change their story forever. It had started on a Tuesday morning, February 11th. Travis was sitting in a Kansas City sports studio, shoulders sore from practice, mind half asleep. The Chiefs had just won another playoff game, and the reporter smiled with that too curious grin. "Travis, Taylor just announced she's extending her tour for another 6 months. How do you feel about that decision? Did you two talk about it?" A simple question. A single careless answer. Travis rubbed the back of his neck and said, "Honestly, I don't really understand all the business decisions that go into her career. She's got a team that handles all that. I just support whatever makes her happy." The words left his mouth like nothing like air. But by the time they hit the internet, they exploded like dynamite. Within hours, clips flooded social media. Headlines spun like knives. Travis Kelce admits he doesn't understand Taylor Swift's career. Is Travis emotionally checked out? That evening, when he opened their front door, the silence hit harder than any tackle. No music, no scent of coffee. Just stillness. "Babe?" he called out softly. Nothing. He found her in the living room, curled on the couch, laptop open, his own face frozen on the screen mid-sentence. Tears streaked her cheeks, and the pause bar glowed like accusation. "Baby, I can explain," he whispered. Taylor's voice was quiet, but it carried weight that crushed him. "You don't understand my career decisions. You said it's not your place to." Travis stepped closer, hands trembling. "That's not what I meant. I was tired. It came out wrong." She closed the laptop. The sound was soft but final. "No, Travis. You said what you meant. My career, my life's work, isn't important enough for you to even try to understand." He froze. She stood, calm and heartbreakingly distant, wearing jeans and a sweater instead of the usual cozy clothes. "That's not fair," he said, his voice cracking. "I support everything you do. I go to your shows. I defend you. How can you say I don't care?" Her eyes filled again, but she didn't flinch. Supporting me and understanding me are two very different things. It was quiet for a moment, the kind of quiet that burns your throat because you're holding back too much. Travis wanted to yell, to fix, to beg, but he couldn't move. She sighed and said softly, "I don't need you to smile for cameras, Travis. I need you to care about why I make the choices I make. I need you to see me, not just the version of me the world loves." That's when it broke. Not loud, no slamming doors, no glass. Just the quiet breaking of something sacred. They argued, yes, but not with fire. It was colder than that. A slow, aching exchange of words that had been building for months. Travis said he felt like he was living in her shadow, always second to her next album, her next tour. Taylor said she felt like he never tried to step into her world, that he stood next to her, but never beside her. By midnight, they had run out of words to hurt each other with. Taylor walked upstairs without a sound, and Travis heard the guest room door close and lock. That was the beginning. The first hour of the 48. Wednesday morning arrived gray and heavy. Travis woke on the couch, his neck stiff, his heart heavier than the sky outside. He could still hear the echo of the locked door upstairs. Every second of silence felt like punishment he deserved. He climbed the stairs quietly, hoping maybe she'd cool down. But when he reached the bedroom, His stomach dropped. Taylor's suitcase was open on the bed, half packed. Her hands were steady, folding clothes like she'd done it 1,000 times. "What are you doing?" he asked from the doorway. No answer. Only the sound of fabric brushing against fabric. "Taylor, I'm going to stay at a hotel for a few days," she said finally. Her tone was calm, controlled, too calm. "We need space to think about whether this is working." Travis's throat tightened. "Don't do this. Please. We can talk. I'll explain everything." She paused, looked up at him, and the hurt in her eyes nearly brought him to his knees. "It's not about the interview," she said softly. "It's about what it revealed. You really don't understand my life. You don't see what I live through every day. The pressure, the decisions, the judgment." She zipped the suitcase shut. "I'm tired of explaining my existence to someone who's supposed to love me." He stepped closer, desperate. "Don't go. I'll fix this." She hesitated at the door. "I'm not leaving you. I just need space. I'll be back Friday. We'll talk then." And then she was gone. The front door clicked shut. Her car engine faded into the distance. Travis stood in the empty house, surrounded by silence, thick enough to choke him. He'd faced roaring stadiums, furious fans, brutal defeats, but nothing felt as terrifying as this quiet. Hours passed. The house didn't feel like theirs anymore. Every photo on the wall looked like someone else's happiness. But what Travis didn't know was that Taylor hadn't gone far. At the end of the street, she pulled over, shaking, tears blurring her vision. She called her mother. "Mom, I can't do this. I can't leave him, but I'm so hurt I can't breathe." Andrea Swift listened quietly. Then, in her calm, knowing voice, said, "Then don't leave. Go back home. But don't speak. Sometimes, the hardest thing is sharing a space in silence. See if your love can survive without words." Taylor sat there for a long moment, staring at the wheel. Then she turned the car around. An hour later, the front door opened again. Travis ran downstairs, heart racing. "Taylor?" She walked right past him. No glance, no word. Just the faint scent of her perfume as she went upstairs and closed the guest room door. That was hour 1 of 48. That afternoon, Travis stood outside the closed door for 10 minutes, searching for words. Finally, he knocked. "Please, baby, can we talk? I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. You mean everything to me." Silence. "Say something. Yell. Anything is better than this." Inside, Taylor sat on the edge of the bed, tears running silently. She could hear him. Every part of her wanted to open the door, but she stayed still. Because if she gave in too soon, nothing would change. Downstairs, Travis sank to the floor, head against the wall, whispering, "Please don't give up on us." By nightfall, the silence was unbearable. He picked up his phone and called Jason. "I messed up, man. I don't know how to fix it. She came back, but won't talk to me." Jason's voice was calm. "Then stop talking. Show her. She doesn't need another apology. She needs to see that you get it." Travis sat there for a long time, staring into the dark. He knew Jason was right, but how do you show someone you understand when you barely understand yourself? That night, he lay awake on the couch, staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft creaks of the house. Upstairs, she was awake too, eyes open in the dark, heart pounding with a mix of love and pain. She replayed his words over and over. "It's not my place to understand." Each time, it felt like a new wound. Because what she heard wasn't indifference, it was dismissal. It was the man she loved saying, "You're too complicated for me to even try." By morning, Travis's phone was full of missed calls, messages, interviews gone viral, but none of it mattered. All he could think of was her behind that locked door. He made coffee, trying to shake the ache in his chest. Then he noticed her laptop on the table, A document was open. The title stopped him cold. Reasons to stay. Reasons to go. He froze. He shouldn't read it. He knew he shouldn't. But his hand moved anyway. Under reasons to go, she had written, "He doesn't understand my world. He sees my career as separate from me. I'm tired of feeling like too much." Under reasons to stay. "I love him more than anyone. But maybe love isn't enough." He closed the laptop, shaking. The room spun. He realized for the first time just how close he was to losing her, not because of one interview, but because he'd never tried to step into her reality. He had been loving her from the outside, and now she was slipping away. He spent the rest of Thursday in silence. They moved like ghosts in the same house, breathing the same air, living in different worlds. Every sound felt amplified. Footsteps on the stairs, the kettle's whistle, the creak of the guest room door opening and closing, but not a single word passed between them. By evening, Donna called again. Her voice was sharp, but full of love. "Travis Michael Kelce, I raised you better than this. You're waiting for her to make it easy. Stop waiting. She's heartbroken because she doesn't feel seen, so make her feel seen." He swallowed hard. "I don't know how." "Then figure it out. You've spent years learning playbooks. Learn her." When the call ended, Travis sat in the dark, finally understanding what Jason and his mom meant. Taylor didn't need words. She needed proof. And that's when an idea began to form, slow, heavy, terrifying. He would show her that he understood. Not by talking, but by learning. Friday morning crept in quietly, soft light spilling through half-closed blinds. The silence had become a living thing. It breathed between them, filled every corner of the house. Travis hadn't slept. For 2 nights he'd been thinking, writing, researching, building something in secret. When he heard the shower start upstairs, he moved quickly. He gathered the papers spread across the table, notes, printouts, articles, and carried them into their bedroom. He taped, arranged, organized, until every inch of wall spoke her story. Then he wrote one final note and placed it gently on her laptop. "Please come to our bedroom when you're ready. Take all the time you need, but please come. I have something you need to see." When Taylor stepped out of the shower, her body ached with exhaustion. She had barely eaten, barely slept. Her heart still hurt from every word that had been said and all the ones that hadn't. She saw the note. For a moment, she almost ignored it. But there was something about the way he had written "please" 3 times, almost like a prayer. Her breath caught. Wrapped in his chief's hoodie, she walked down the hall. And what she saw when she opened that door made her freeze. Every wall was covered. Hundreds of sheets of paper, handwritten notes, printed articles, photos, charts, timelines. Her entire career mapped out in detail. Not the glossy public version, the real one. As she stepped closer, she saw his handwriting everywhere. Next to "fearless," you refused to be boxed in, even when the industry tried to control you. Next to 1989, you changed genres because you wanted to grow, not because it was safe. Next to reputation, you built an empire from ashes when the world tried to bury you. Next to folklore and evermore, you turned isolation into art when most people just tried to survive. Taylor's throat tightened. Her eyes moved over every note, every highlighted line. It wasn't surface level. He'd studied her, the interviews, the decisions, the sacrifices. There were even timelines of her tours, with notes like, August 2016 media chaos. Chose to stay silent instead of fight. 2019 re-recording masters. Taking back ownership of self. 2022 first stadium tour post-pandemic. Pushed through injury and exhaustion because connection mattered. On the bed lay a 5-page handwritten letter. Her fingers shook as she picked it up. "Taylor, I spent 48 hours doing what I should have done for 2 years learning you. I read every interview. I watched your documentaries. I talked to people who work with you, not to pry, but to understand what drives you. And what I realized broke me. When I said I didn't understand your career, what I really admitted was that I hadn't tried hard enough. I stood beside you without learning the world you live in. That isn't love. That's laziness, dressed as support. Her tears began to fall. The words blurred, but she kept reading. I understand now that when you extended your tour, it wasn't about fame or money. It was about purpose, about the fans who find healing in your songs, about responsibility, something I've always respected but never fully seen. I understand that your work isn't a job. It's your heart beating in public, and I can't imagine the courage that takes. I'll never fully comprehend the pressure you live under, but I swear to spend my life trying to, not to approve or judge, but to understand deeply, constantly, completely. You once told me that silence tests love. I failed that test, but I want to earn back my voice, the right to stand beside you, not just as the man who cheers you on, but the one who gets you. Taylor pressed the letter to her chest, sobbing quietly. For the first time since Tuesday, she felt the walls between them start to crack. No one had ever done this. No one had ever cared enough to study her soul. She followed the trail of notes down the hallway. Every corner of the house was filled with proof, not of apology, but of effort. She found him in the kitchen, head in his hands, looking like he hadn't slept in days. He looked up slowly. The fear in his eyes said everything. "Did you really spend 2 nights doing all this?" she whispered. Travis nodded, voice raw. "Every second." "You read every interview?" He smiled weakly. "Every one I could find. I made charts. I took notes. I still don't get everything, but I'll keep learning." She stepped closer, tears streaming down her face. "Why would you do all this?" "Because I finally understand what I was missing," he said. "Loving you means loving your world, not standing outside of it. You gave everything to build it. The least I can do is learn it." She broke, then truly broke, and threw her arms around him. The first sound in 48 hours wasn't words, but her sobs against his chest. He held her tighter than he'd ever held anything in his life. "I'm sorry," she whispered into his shirt. "I shut you out because I was scared." "You didn't care enough." "You have nothing to be sorry for," he murmured, kissing the top of her head. "You were hurt because I hurt you. That's on me." They stayed like that for a long time. The world outside didn't matter. No noise, no headlines, just 2 people finding their way back through the wreckage of silence. When they finally spoke, it wasn't rushed or angry. It was gentle, real. Taylor told him about the fear of making the wrong move, the exhaustion of always being watched. Travis told her about feeling like he could never measure up to the man the world thought she deserved. And for the first time in months, they really heard each other. When the sun began to set, its light painted the kitchen gold. Taylor leaned against him and whispered, "Promise me something. Anything. If you don't understand something about my work, ask me. Don't just smile and nod. I'd rather have you argue with me because you care than pretend because you don't." Travis brushed her cheek with his thumb. "I promise. And promise me something too. If I ever say something stupid again, tell me right away. Don't lock yourself away." She smiled for the first time in days. "Deal." They stood in the soft evening light, not as a pop star and an athlete, but as 2 people who'd chosen to fight for understanding. The silence had tested them, and they had passed. The next morning felt different. The air was lighter. The house that had been filled with tension now carried a quiet kind of peace. Taylor and Travis moved through the kitchen like 2 people relearning how to exist together. The coffee pot hissed, the floor creaked, and for once, the silence between them didn't hurt, it healed. Travis leaned against the counter, watching her pour coffee into 2 mugs. "You know," he said softly, I almost called Jason last night to ask what to do next. Then I realized this isn't about fixing, it's about listening. Taylor smiled faintly. You learned faster than most people do. He chuckled, the first genuine laugh in days. You make me want to learn. They sat together, sharing small words that felt like big victories. The past 48 hours had been brutal, but they'd stripped away everything fake, every performance, every half-truth. What remained was raw, human, and honest. Taylor looked out the window. The sky had cleared, sunlight spilled across the snow-covered lawn. You know what I realized, she said. Silence doesn't always mean the end. Sometimes it's where you figure out what still matters. Travis reached across the table and took her hand. It matters, he said simply. You matter. Later that evening, they curled up on the couch together for the first time since it all began. Her head rested on his chest, his hand tracing slow circles on her back. They talked until the streetlights came on, until words turned into laughter, until every part of the last 2 days felt like a lesson instead of a wound. Taylor told him about the nights on tour, when she cried in hotel rooms, afraid that no one truly saw her behind the music. Travis told her how he often felt like an outsider in her world, the guy from Kansas City trying to keep up with a global phenomenon. For every confession, there was forgiveness. For every fear, there was a hand held tighter. Promise me something, Taylor whispered. If it ever gets hard again, don't walk away. Don't wait for me to speak first. Just stay. Travis nodded, his voice steady. Always. Even if you lock the door, even if you need silence, I'll be here. Because silence isn't losing you, it's loving you differently. Tears filled her eyes again, but this time they didn't hurt. I love you, she said. I love you more, he replied. Not the spotlight version, the real one. They kissed slow, trembling, certain. Months passed, and the world eventually forgot about the interview. The internet moved on to its next scandal. But for Taylor and Travis, those 48 hours remained sacred, the breaking point that turned into their beginning. 6 months later, the same kitchen that had once held silence now glowed with golden light. Candles flickered, and the smell of her favorite dessert filled the air. Taylor walked in, smiling. What's all this? Travis stood there, dressed in a simple white shirt, eyes nervous but certain. On the counter sat a leather-bound book, thick, worn, familiar. He picked it up and handed it to her. Do you remember this? She opened it and gasped. Inside were all his notes, the research, the timelines, the letters. But this time, something new was written at the end. This isn't just research anymore. It's a promise. A promise to never stop learning you. When she looked up, he was already on one knee. Taylor Allison Swift, he said, his voice shaking just a little. I learned that love isn't about understanding everything. It's about choosing to keep learning every day for the rest of our lives. So, will you let me keep learning you? Her hand flew to her mouth. Tears spilled freely down her cheeks. Travis, she whispered. Yes. He slipped the ring on her finger, and for a moment, the world went still, not the silence of distance, but of peace. Later that night, they stood by the window, watching the lights of Kansas City shimmer in the distance. Taylor leaned her head against his shoulder. Do you realize, she said softly, that our silence saved us? Travis smiled. Yeah, sometimes love doesn't need noise to grow. It just needs two people who refuse to walk away. Outside, the wind whispered against the glass. Inside, two souls who had learned the language of silence held each other a little tighter, not out of fear of losing what they had, but gratitude for what they'd found. And somewhere deep in the quiet, where love had once been tested, it bloomed stronger than ever.